Welcome back to The Cellar. On April 28, 1988, Aloha Airlines Boeing 737-297 was scheduled to make a flight between Hilo and Honolulu, Hawaii. The aircraft itself was built in 1969 and was the 152nd Boeing airframe built at the Renton Assembly Plant, which is located in Renton, Washington. This particular airframe had accumulated over 35,496 flight hours prior to this departure. This included 90,000 flight cycles. Flight cycles are defined as completed takeoff and landing sequences. This high number of usage was more than twice the number of flight cycles for which the airframe was originally designed. Another interesting piece of information was that Aloha Airlines operated, at the time, the two highest flight cycle Boeing 737s in the world. The captain of the flight was Robert Schornsteimer, an extremely experienced pilot who had accumulated more than 8,500 flight hours, with more than two-thirds of those flights being in a Boeing 737. At 13:25 Hawaii Aleutian Time Zone on April 28th of 1988, Flight 243 departed Hilo International Airport. The plane took off with 5 crew members and 90 passengers on board. This flight was the 4th round-trip flight of the day, and no prior issues had been reported with any of those earlier flights. The takeoff and ascent went just as planned. The aircraft would reach its normal flight altitude of 24,000 feet. At about 23 minutes into the flight, chaos would ensue out of seemingly nowhere. A loud bang and whooshing sound would occur in the blink of an eye. A section of the left side of the plane's roof ruptured and peeled back like a soda can exploding outwards. The captain was startled as the plane started to roll left and right. Doing all he could to keep the plane under control, the captain would glance behind him and find, to his horror, that the cockpit door was completely absent. The captain saw nothing but blue sky within the first class section of the plane. The section of plane now missing measured a length of roughly 18 feet long. It was now chaos within the cabin as the 90 passengers feared for their life. Many clung to their seats, hoping and praying that they would somehow survive this unbelievable situation. The captain of the flight managed to get the plane under control and began emergency landing procedures. They diverted to Kahului Airport, and as they made their approach, the left engine would fail. At this point, the captain did all he could to keep the plane under control and try and land it safely. Miraculously, they were able to make a normal landing on runway 2, a full 13 minutes after the incident had begun. In the aftermath of it all, a total of 65 people were injured to varying degrees. The injured would be shuttled some 3 miles away to a nearby hospital. 8 people were deemed to have suffered serious injuries, while remarkably, only 1 fatality occurred. That fatality was an absolutely horrifying one, as 58-year-old flight attendant Clarabelle Lansing was standing near the 5th row seats when the roof was torn away. Being that she was not seatbelted in and was at the wrong place at the wrong time, she was within an instant swept straight out of the plane. From all reports, she was there and then she was just gone. Her body, to this very day, has never been found. An absolutely horrible way to leave this world. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board would conclude that the accident was ultimately caused by metal fatigue. This was exacerbated by crevice corrosion. The 19-year-old aircraft had operated in a coastal environment. The constant exposure to salt and humidity caused corrosion to take over, and the age and continuous use of the aircraft led to a horrifying tragedy. Our next story takes place in Orange, Texas, on July 2nd, 2015. Tommy Woodward had just recently moved from St. Louis to Orange, Texas with his twin brother. They both were working at a local shipyard, and during their downtime, Tommy would do what he loved to do best: drink beer, shoot pool, and in general, have a good-ass time. This evening was no different. As the night carried on into the morning, Tommy decided he wanted to go for a swim. Tommy was drinking at Burkert's Marina, a beer and burger joint in Orange, Texas, that is located along the waters of Adams Bayou. A no swimming sign had been erected a few weeks prior, as a very large alligator had been seen lurking within the murky waters of the bayou. This sign had mostly been ignored, as numerous residents of the area took to swimming regularly and didn't heed the danger that can come with such large reptiles in the area. Tommy was determined at the time to go swimming. The bartender on duty pleaded with him, but all reports say that Tommy was stubborn. When he set his mind to something, there wasn't anyone or anything that was going to get him to back down. Tommy would then proceed to take his shirt off and empty his pockets as he prepared himself for the late night dip. Just before he was about to jump in, a friend of Tommy's named Victoria LeBlanc would notice a large gator within the waters around the dock. She immediately warned Tommy about the gator's presence. Tommy simply looked back at Victoria and made the following statement: "Fuck that gator." Tommy would plunge into the waters below. He began to swim out near a small island located within the bayou. As Victoria looked on, she watched in absolute horror as the large gator would emerge from its murky depths and latch itself onto Tommy's arm. Victoria would jump into the water to try and provide aid to Tommy, but Tommy screamed at Victoria to get back on the land. She exited the bayou and ran inside for help, and 911 would immediately be called. The bartender, following the 911 call, would grab a flashlight and head straight out to the dock. It is said that it took around 5 minutes or so before they caught a glimpse of Tommy, who was now face down near the pier. As they looked at Tommy, the gator would snag Tommy's body once again and pull him below into the depths of the bayou, disappearing into the night. Help would soon arrive on scene, and it would take over 2 hours before Tommy was finally located. His lifeless body was found face down, with one of his arms completely missing from the elbow down. Following the incident, an autopsy was performed. The results showed that Tommy had drowned during his ordeal with the alligator. This particular reptile had been a pretty big one, as it was estimated that the alligator was 11 feet in length. Tommy Woodward would become the first person to be killed by an alligator in Texas since 1836. It just goes to show that you could never underestimate a wild predatory animal. They are unpredictable, and all it takes sometimes is a mere seconds for them to end a life. Mildred Bowman, a retired 62-year-old cleaner, and her sister Alice Wardle, a 68-year-old retired bakery worker, would spend a lot of time together. Both women were widows and grandmothers from Gateshead, England, a town located in the Gateshead metropolitan borough of Tyne and Wear, England. These two retired sisters would typically go on vacation with one another 2 to 3 times a year to the country of Spain. It was Saturday, July 30th, 2005. The sisters embarked on a flight to Benidorm. Benidorm is a seaside resort on the eastern coast of Spain. It is part of the Valencia region's famed Costa Blanca, a popular Mediterranean holiday destination known for its nightlife and its 2 white sandy beaches, Levante Beach and Poniente Beach. As the sisters arrived in Spain, they would proceed to check into the Levante Club apartments. As they settled into their apartment, the pair made plans with other family members to meet up the following day. As the day turned to night, the two sisters would head to bed, looking to get a good night's sleep before heading out to see the sights the following day. The next day would begin, and as family of Mildred and Alice awaited their arrival, they would never show. As more and more time would pass, the family of the two sisters would begin to become more and more concerned. It wouldn't take long before the family began searching for them. Days would pass as the family checked out all their favorite places to visit within the area, but no sign of Mildred or Alice was found. 5 days in total would go by before answers were finally discovered. From all reports, the cleaners at this apartment typically clean the rooms on Mondays and Thursdays. On Monday, an attempt was made to access Mildred and Alice's room, but they found the door was locked from the inside, and so that apartment was skipped for the day. This wasn't deemed unusual at the time, as sometimes people simply don't want to be bothered, especially being that the sisters were only a couple days into their stay. But as Thursday rolled around, and once again the cleaners could not access the room, suspicions arose. A maintenance technician would soon be called to gain entry into the apartment. What was found inside is not for the faint of heart. The two sisters had gone to bed together Saturday night. The particular bed that they were sleeping in is known as a Murphy bed. A Murphy bed is a bed that is hinged at one end to store vertically against the wall or inside a closet or cabinet. From all reports, as the sisters slept Saturday into Sunday, a horrifying scene would transpire. Investigators found that the bed the sisters slept in had not been lowered correctly. This caused the base of the bed to be tilted instead of it being horizontal with the bed unit on the wall. To add to it all, the screws and plugs on the bed's wall storage unit were not fitted correctly. These screws and plugs would give way and cause the unit to collapse on top of the sisters as they slept. The two sisters were trapped and unable to free themselves from the entanglement they now found themselves in. The most horrifying thing is that it is ultimately believed that sometime Saturday night or Sunday morning these events transpired. The sisters would remain trapped within the bed until finally being found on Thursday of that week. Worst of all was the outcome of the autopsy report, which showed that the sisters were both alive for days, as they didn't die until sometime between 11 p.m. Wednesday and 2 a.m. that Thursday morning. They laid there trapped, slowly suffocating with one another for days before finally succumbing to the horrifying situation they were in. Following the tragedy, the family would push for manslaughter charges, but ultimately, after a 4-year-long inquest, the charges would be thrown out by a Spanish judge. From all reports, the family could pursue a civil liability case, but I was unable to ascertain if anything ever came from that. At the end of it all, my thoughts go out to the families of Mildred, Alice, and anyone who has lost someone to such a horrible fate, as it just goes to show once again that seemingly normal, everyday things that we do could spell the end for any one of us at any given time. Thank you all for tuning in to another episode. If you enjoy the content, please hit that like and subscribe button. It helps the channel continue to grow. Also, you can check the description box below and find the link to my merch store. Tons of awesome designs, and the proceeds help fund the channel. For those of you that might be interested, I have a Cellar Dweller membership tier for the channel. It's only $2.99 a month and comes with some pretty cool perks. So if that interests you, then please go check it out. I also have that linked in the description box below. If you'd like to submit a real-life scary story that you would like featured on an episode on the channel, please do so using the email linked in the description box below. As always, I do all the research, writing, recording, and editing for the channel myself, so anything that you do that supports the channel is greatly appreciated. Until next time, I will see you all again as we head back into the cellar.